The Honorable Governor Asa Hutchinson was sworn in as the 46th Governor of Arkansas in January 2015. As part of his strategy to market Arkansas and attract more jobs and businesses to the state, Governor Hutchinson met with CEOs of major industries across the globe, from Silicon Valley to Germany, China, and Cuba. He served in the U.S. House of Representatives' 3rd District of Arkansas from January 1997 to August 2001. Before being elected governor, he served as director of the Drug Enforcement Administration and as the first Undersecretary of the Department of Homeland Security. A graduate of the University of Arkansas Law School, at age 31, he was appointed by President Reagan as the nation's youngest U.S. attorney. He always shares our passion and interest in attracting resources and talent to the state, so all of our communities can grow together. On a personal note, Mr. Governor, my son serves as a Coast Guard officer and is heading to Bogota, Colombia, to serve as an attaché, and he will work with the Drug Enforcement Agency country team. He has been stationed in Washington, D.C. several times, and my wife and I have had the pleasure of visiting the DEA Museum. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with esteemed privilege that I present the Honorable Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mike, for the introduction. I appreciate you making the connection about your son as working with the DEA in Bogota. I've been there. It's amazing the mission that they have and the importance of that and the success that they've had. So grateful for him and his partnership and sacrifice. It's good to be here in Sling County, because it's good to be back. I look out at this audience, and this is where the power center of Arkansas is. The legislators that you send to Little Rock, I see the chairman of the party, Doyle Webb there, longtime friend, and then our civic leaders that are here, the young people that are here. So thank you for coming out. It's very impressive. I want you to know, I haven't done this anywhere. During the session, I'm pretty well locked to my desk, just focusing on what's happening with the legislature. But I thought it would be important to be here to hear from you, and so I'm going to talk a little bit, and then we'll take some questions from you as well. I like history, and I come down to this area. I remember the story of, John McClellan, former United States Senator. He was from South Arkansas. He and his dad, Ike McClellan, practiced law in Sheridan and Malvern and that area. And I read a biography on John McClellan, and it talked about a lesson that he learned, and that he was elected prosecutor, and he was really a hard-charging prosecutor. And he had a murder case that he was prosecuting. I think it was over in Malvern, and guess who was appointed to represent the defendant? His dad, Ike McClellan. And so he's going in there to try the case against his dad, who's representing the defendant, and they went at it just hard as you can for about 3 or 4 days, and finally the jury came back and gave an acquittal. And they walked out of the courthouse together, and the dad looked at him and he said, "Son, if you'd been prepared, you'd won that case." I just like that story, but it illustrates a little bit how things used to be and how things are different today. And these legislators here, we got a lot of scrutiny on us. People look at us, they set rules, and so it's just a different day and time than the olden ways, but I love that old story. And I want to say something about your delegation here. I look at each one of them. They're sponsoring bills that are key. They're addressing problems. Lanny, I know, has got a key bill on recycling and protecting, making a more central and more accountable system for that. I tell you, thank you, Ken, for your leadership, and thank you for hosting this breakfast, Kim. You've been a good partner, and I appreciate your thoughtful leadership. Andy Davis, what a strong technical background he has. I appointed him to the Highway Task Force, did an amazing job on that, continues to lead in those areas. Representing Andy Davis, I've already got 2 bills on my desk that he sponsored. Good pro-life bill that I signed yesterday. And thank you, Andy, for that. They all sponsored and supported as well. And then, of course, I got my nephew here, Senator Hutchinson, and someone asked me what was the key of being a good governor, and I said having 2 nephews in the legislature. Not many folks have that, but I'm proud of him. And all I can say for the legislators here, send them all back. They're doing a great job for us. I wanted to talk about the session and turn it over for questions. Whenever you look at my priorities in this session, first of all, it has been what I've done as governor, which is economic development. You know, I've gone to China, you know, I've gone to Europe, bringing jobs back. We have a relationship internationally. We have global opportunities. We've created 56,000 jobs since I've been governor. I think that's pretty good. Now, that's the private sector, but we want to unleash the private sector. That's the conservative approach to things. I want the private sector to grow more than the government sector. And so we want to continue that, and in this session we address those issues as well. That's the reason for a $50 million tax cut that's moved through both House and Senate. That'll give tax cut reduction for 650,000 Arkansans that are in lower income category, making less than $21,000. And guess what they are going to do when they get that extra money? Spend it. And whenever they spend it, it's going to be for a new set of tires. It's going to be helping to buy their kids' clothes. They're going to spend it. It's going to help grow the economy in the local community. And so that is the right approach to economic growth and creating jobs. We're also supporting the retired military tax cut, where you reduce the income for their retirement income. Why do we want to do this? It makes us competitive with the other states. It allows us to recruit the incredible talent of our retired military. And when they come here, they're going to get a second career, and they're going to pay taxes on that. And it's going to drive our economy, and I'm convinced that it will be an economic driver as well as doing the right thing for those that have served in the military. Do you all believe that's a good idea? The $50 million tax cut we can absorb through normal growth. But I'm careful about that because we've got a lot of funding needs in our state, so I don't want to overdo and have tax cuts that we cannot absorb or handle in our budget. And so that is in the second year of the biennium, the $50 million tax cut. We can absorb that. That's as much as we can absorb. And so in the military tax cut, we wanted to pay for it. As they say, we have offsets for it, and so it is paid for by closing off some other exemptions. And so it's a package, and we want everybody's support for that. You know, one of the things that we look at whenever we look at our budget is that we grow, we want to manage it, and we want to manage it through efficiencies as well and save money in our budget. And it's really not that well known as to some of the things we've done with our hiring freeze, with consolidating agencies, eliminating unnecessary boards and commissions. We've saved hundreds of millions of dollars by those efficiencies efforts that we have put into place. And so later on, you'll hear me talk about a state pay plan. And by the way, Saline County's got a few state employees here. And but we're not paying them competitively, and so we have a state pay plan that's going to modernize the pay plan, make it more competitive, but it's going to cost us some money, and we're paying for a large part of that from the savings that we've already implemented. And it's still going to take some more budget money, but probably a third of it is paid for by the efficiencies that the agencies have already achieved. We want to have an accelerator program where we have technology and new businesses in technology that we will help start up in partnering with industry to fund those accelerator programs, whether it's financial sector, agriculture sector, that drives the software development business, technology that creates jobs, and will provide a source of jobs for those young people that are getting their coding education. Whenever you look in education, we're going to have our future grants. This is something that has really not started moving through the legislative process yet, but it's one of my priorities. And that will tell every high school student that if you go to a 2-year college or a technical school in a field that is a high priority field, like teaching, like nursing, like welding, like STEM programs, if you do it a high priority, then we'll make sure that your tuition and costs are fully paid. And we do that by simply combining some existing grant programs and saying our future grants will be the wraparound that will make sure all of their fees and costs are paid. And what that does is it gives them confidence that that will be paid, and for that first generation of students that go to college, they say, I can do it, we can pay it, I might need to have a part-time job to buy a few books or to buy my extra stuff, but they can do it, and they have the assurance of doing it. We put 3 criteria there though. 1, you got to go into a field that you can really get a job. And I love history majors, but this is not for history majors. This is for high priority fields. Secondly, we want that 2-year college to have a mentor for that student to increase their chance of success. And thirdly, we want them to stay in Arkansas for 3 years, and if they leave the state after that, you got to pay the money back. Very simple criteria for that. Our future grant program. We're putting $3 million more in the budget for pre-K, but we're emphasizing not just quantity, but quality of teacher instruction and improving the training for the teachers in the classroom. I announced yesterday a reading initiative, and this is not new dollars, but it says that we're going to concentrate on phonics education and reading skills that will help that student, that will develop their reading skills. We want to put more money into or more emphasis on teacher training so that they can have the skills to teach in the classroom, as well as just building a culture of reading across Arkansas that everybody can participate in, encourage students in, and you develop that and be a lifelong habit that will give them the skills they need to succeed. I never stop talking about efficiency. I've already mentioned that, but it's important to us. And when the session is over with, I want you to know I'm going to go back to managing government and trying to improve the efficiency day in and day out. Before I turn it over for questions, I wanted to mention in the larger scale things, some things that are happening in Washington. I just came back, and some others from the inauguration, and I, as governor, got to have an incredible seat on the platform where the president-elect came out of the Capitol Rotunda, and I saw the transition of power close at hand. And I've seen this as a member of Congress. I've seen it as a member of the administration of President Bush. But to see it as governor and to see it in this incredible time in history was exciting to me for our country. That you have not only your federal officials there, the Supreme Court, the administration, you've got the executive branch and the legislative branch, but you've also got the governors that are there. You also have prior presidents that are there in this transition of power, and you have, in this case, the defeated foe. And to see them all there together just makes you enormously proud of America. Agree or disagree, this is unique about the democracy that we have. It was thrilling to be there. But it also, and I appreciate the prayer, we have to pray for our leaders and our president, because this is going to be a challenging time, and I'll just give you one illustration. I'm trying to attract global jobs to Arkansas. And we're going to be challenged, and it's going to be difficult if we're going to put up trade barriers for that international global marketplace. So I'm going to be a continued voice for tough trading policy. And if you look at his actions thus far, his actions are okay in terms of canceling the TPP, the Transatlantic Trade Agreement. And it's okay because we can negotiate instead of multilateral, many countries and trade agreements. We can do bilateral trade agreements, tough policy. That's good. He's setting a good signal that we're going to be tough at that negotiating table. But if you start putting up trade barriers and tariffs of 20%, it's going to hurt us in Arkansas. It's going to hurt us in Arkansas because, first of all, it's easy for those 400 jobs that Tianyang Garment Company is going to put in Little Rock area, $16 an hour. It's easy for them to say, forget it. And they've made that commitment. We've got a $1 billion investment in South Arkansas in the timber industry. That's very important for our timber industry. It's going to be centered in Arkadelphia. It's going to create jobs. It's going to help us in our timber industry and a supply that we have that they need. And that's a relationship that's important that drives our economy here in this state. But it also, you look at our agricultural economy, and we want to export our rice, our poultry, our beef. And it's very easy to put up barriers in retaliation against our agricultural exports. We do not need that kind of challenge in the trade area. So while I like toughness, and we got a president that's going to be tough, I also, as governor, will continue to be a voice for the global economy that is important to Arkansas. It also gives me a chance to showcase that Arkansas is not this little small hillbilly state. Arkansas is a part of the global economy. We're growing in that area. We want to participate in it and continue to be strong. You're terrific to give me this opportunity to talk today. I am thrilled to be governor. I'm thrilled to serve with these incredible, distinguished legislators that are carrying the heavy load every day in the session. And with that, I want to thank you for inviting me today, and I want to turn it over for questions.
We have a microphone coming to you. Just raise your hand if you have a question.
I was thinking it was working. I could hear you.
Hello. Hello. Yes. Hello. All right, just talk loud right now. We'll work on that.
My name is Yao Reg, and I'm a Chinese citizen, and I'm very proud to work in the Arkansas state government, and I'm very grateful for you mentioning all the projects with China. And today is the Chinese New Year, and I would want to wish Happy New Year and everybody Happy Chinese New Year.
Thank you. Great comment, and Happy New Year to you. Yes.
Governor, I'm really interested in who has the influence on you to get you to Saline County at 7 o'clock in the morning. I want to know who to go to when I need something from you.
I give credit to the folks here at this table, and Kim, thank you again for setting this up. Glad to come. I'll come back. You better get tougher questions than that.
My microphone's not working.
Okay, just stand up.
Yeah, I can hear them if they talk loud. Somebody can interpret.
Good morning, sir. My name is Angela Palladino, and I'm from UALR Benton Center. And I have a question regarding the information for the money that would be used to fund two-year degrees for areas that are needed. Would that only be two-year degrees at community colleges or also at four-year colleges?
Great question, and that would be at two-year colleges and technical schools, so it would not be at the four-year institutions. Now, we've got, I see Shane Broadway and, representing ASU, and there's probably other institutions here, but they see the benefit because if we can get more going into the two-year program and moving up the educational ladder, then they will find their way into the four-year institution. So I think we feed off of each other, but this is designed for the two-year and technical schools. Yes?
Real quick question. Talk real loud.
Okay, two real quick questions. One, is there any way that
get rid of the special elections?
Yes.
Okay, you might have to remind me on some of that.
It was Nick Dillon that was done last time.
On the first part of the question, could we use GIF money or excess revenues to cover the offsets for the military retiree tax cut versus closing off some of the other exemptions? The answer is the balanced budget that I presented that funds education, that does public safety and all the other requirements of government has $0 for GIF. And so it is a tight budget, and we're absorbing the $50 million tax cut in future growth, but that's the maximum that we can absorb. And so this had to be offset. And, you know, we talk as conservatives about closing off exemptions, and I want to lower the rate. I want to lower the rate for all Arkansans. We want to get there, and to get there, you got to close off some exemptions. And so we just took 3 exemptions and trying to close those off, and it tells you how hard it is, because every exemption's got an advocate out there. And so it's not easy. Sometimes you just got to suck it up and do it. And so we've got 3 exemptions that will pay for that military retiree. I think they're the right thing to do. One of them, for example, is unemployment benefits. I know that it surprises you, but we don't have an income tax on unemployment benefits. This simply says you will close off that exemption. And all but 8 states don't have that exemption. They tax unemployment benefits. They tax it at the federal level, so that's a good exemption to close off. Now, people think, well, you know, this is really going to hurt the lower income, but the fact is that they just had 200 executives laid off at Walmart at their headquarters. They're probably $100,000 a year jobs. That means their unemployment compensation is going to be taxed. And so it's not just a low income hit. I could go through all of the exemptions, but that's an example of what we're closing off. We're also, and this was a legislative-driven suggestion, which was right on target, that you know, we're creating a legislative task force to look at future reforms down the road, get us ready for the 19 session, and what further tax cuts we can have, what further exemptions we can close off, how we can simplify the code and have more extensive tax reform. So there'll be a legislative task force that will be directed at that effort. Finally, you asked about the special elections. You know, I think we all enjoy our elections in November. You know, for example, on school board elections, the legislation did allow us as an option, the school board, to have the election in November versus in some other called time frame. And so not many school boards have done that, but whenever the state took over a couple school districts, one of them being Helena, West Helena, when we returned it back to school control, that was when the Commissioner of Education, Johnny Key, since we were the school board at that point, we said we're going to have this election in November. And so, you know, we're able to influence that process. I don't know whether there's legislation right now that will impact other special elections. Yes?
Where are we on road funding?
Andy? Well, on road funding, first of all, we called a special session last year to make sure we had the money for making the federal match. They had $200 million available. We had to come up with $50 million. We did that. We put together the money to make sure we could capitalize on that. And we have a continued funding stream for that revenue in the future. Now, there's a consensus, though, that we need a stronger maintenance program in Arkansas. We need to have additional funding. I call it some people say we had a first step in our highway program with what we did last year. I think we really addressed it at the intermediate level and got quite a bit done on that. But there's more that can be done, and there's just a lot of discussions right now as to whether we should refer to the voters in the 2018 election or a special election, a bond issue that would continue the half-cent sales tax down the road and maybe have some additional revenue that will go to highways. And so my commitment is that if we're going to have any tax increase for a new highway program, it would be referred to the voters to vote on. So that is what will be considered in this session. Yes. Now I've got a lady up here, then we'll go back. That's all right.
Governor, I'm Juanita Wilson from the little small town of Alexander.
And Jared has done a lot for us. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hammer's the best representative I've ever known. And
so they've already helped our little town.
And
I want to know what we can do, what our town
can do to move forward
and help y'all do what y'all need to do, so then we can get economic development going in small towns like mine. We have a lot of places we'd like to see things added to that would add revenue to our city,
as well as adding
population. We're getting population explosion right now in our town. So we need to get something where we can get economic development
in these small towns now. Benton's a big town to us, as is Plant, okay?
One of my economic announcements was in a town, Maynard, Arkansas, population 200. And I went there, and I had I saw the senator there, and you had the governor there, you had the congressman there, all in this town of 200. And the mayor of Maynard stood up and he says, "I just been mayor 2 months and look at all these people I brought to town." So it can happen in small towns. But the population growth, the initiative that you had, the partnership with the legislature, that's what drives it. Obviously, if Mike Preston, as Director of Economic Development, can help, and if you've got some buildings that are good opportunities, or you need to learn what more can be done, contact Mike Preston there at Economic Development.
I'm the director of the Saline County Library, and you've always been a great library supporter, so thank you for that. And I know we're in the budget for this year with the state aid for libraries. But you mentioned a program for children in the schools this year. Libraries, you know, that's one thing that we do great is the 0 to 5 and then the school children. But could you just speak a little bit more about what that program is?
The Reading Initiative?
Yes.
First of all, it's called RISE, which is Reading Initiative, but it's a RISE acronym. So you might go on the Department of Education website to get more of the details in it, but it focuses on, the goal is to improve reading proficiency by 10%, which you think is a modest goal, but right now we're not doing well in reading proficiency in grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. I think it's like we're reading at proficiency at maybe 40% at grade 3, but then it drops off to like 35% in grade 4, 8th grade, 30%, and so it's not on the right trend. And so we not only have to do better at the 3rd grade level in developing reading proficiency and improve that, but we need to protect against that decline, and that's where the libraries come in. It's a home environment. Those come from poverty homes do a lot less reading one-on-one than otherwise. So it's all of the charitable groups of volunteers that have reading programs in the library for students that and tutors and volunteers that can read with them. So those are programs that are being pushed in addition to the phonics education and the culture of reading that you're such a critical part of. So I encourage you to go to that website.
My
name's Pam Toller. I work for Arkansas State University, and I also am involved with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library here in Saline County and at the state level as well. I wanted to say thank you again for including pre-K in your budget. I'm very excited to partner with the schools and the local community with Imagination Library to create that culture of reading. But my question is, recently it seems like you appointed a Chief Transformational Officer. And I was just wondering how that was going. That sounded really interesting and exciting to me.
Hey, what a great question. And I'm glad you mentioned Imagination Library. That's really one of the key groups that can support this initiative and is doing a great job in making sure books are available in homes and with students. In terms of the Transformation Office, this is, it started with the Arkansas Policy Foundation that did a review of state government and said there is more that we can do in terms of not just efficiency, but transformation. And when I say transformation, for example, right now we have data centers all over the different agencies of state government. Well, if we transform it, rather than everybody being siloed in terms of their data centers, we can consolidate some of those data centers, save money, but also it gives us a better handle on our cybersecurity threats. So that's transforming state government. But it's also about a mission. You know, I have a mission statement as governor. I want to make sure every agency has a mission statement, has performance measures. Performance measures is something used in the private sector, but it's difficult to use in the government sector. How do you do performance measures for police and preventing crime? Those are challenges. You know, how do you do performance measures for the prison system? That we're spending money, but what's the return on it? Is it, you know, how many escapes you have or don't have? Is it a performance measure how they come out and don't recidivate and go back to prison? And so that's transforming government to think through what are the right goals we're trying to accomplish as we spend money. So I've designated Amy Fetcher, who is at Economic Development. She's been in state government. She led some efficiency efforts at Economic Development. So she is my Chief Transformation Officer. Didn't cost additional money. She brought her in, and we're absorbing that in the governor's office. And so she's coordinating the effort among state government. And we've got a lot of good things going there. Some things I'm asking the legislators to do. And part of it is just communicating as to what we're doing. And so we might be having an advisory group that we create with a member of the House and Senate on that advisory group for our efficiency effort in the Transformation Office. So you all are aware of what we're doing and also can see the ideas and take those, and some of it will take legislation. So, you know, I used to give short answers, but then I got elected to Congress and everything changed. That was a great question. All right.
Governor, I have a serious question this time. I know that you're aware that more people die from drug causes in accidents than automobile accidents. Okay, we have a hero in Saline County in our Chief of Police, Kurt Lane, and I speak for, in behalf of the 5,000 Rotarians across the state of Arkansas, and including the Rotary clubs here in Saline County. But there is and I am speaking to the legislators also at this time, appreciate your support for the movement that we need a stronger influence from our physician level to reduce the number of prescription drugs that are out on the street. Because we do have a take-back program that has been very well supported by the Rotarians around the state since instigated 8-10 years ago, and I know that it's initiated by DEA. And so I'd just like to know, what is your position on the effort by Chief Lane to get stronger in the existing bill, PDMT, in the state legislature?
Chief Lane is a leader in this area, and his ideas and guidance are important in terms of, one, thank goodness we don't have the level of problem they have up in Vermont and some of the other northeastern states on opioid abuse, but it's terrible whenever you think, well, is it good news that methamphetamine is still the #1 drug problem in Arkansas? That's not good news. But opioids has not taken over the #1 drug problem yet. But we've got to really get a handle on this because it's a growing challenge for us. Prescription drug monitoring program is a key part of that allows physicians to be able to go on a database and see whether their patient is getting opioids from 3 or 4 other physicians. It allows law enforcement to monitor it better. There's ways to strengthen that program. We just signed a law yesterday that did allow greater access and strengthening the prescription drug monitoring program. Right now it's voluntary participation. I think the debate is whether to make it mandatory. I'd be certainly open to that. All right, maybe this is the last question right back here.
Thank you, Governor. I understand you support career and technical education at the post-secondary and secondary levels. Would you explain the state stand on that, please? Career and technical education level for our secondary high school students.
Yeah, I will try to explain it. We'll see if we can cover. But I mean, one, if we're going to be successful as a state in both recruiting industry but supporting our existing industry, we've got to have a strong career tech program. And we've got the right strategy. There's always a challenge on the funding model of it. But my priority is that we want to fund those career tech programs that are not siloed, that are partnerships between a high school, a 2-year or a technical school, so that they're partnered together. You can get concurrent credit. You can not duplicate your resources, but work together in that. And then secondly, let's partner with industry. We don't want to have training for jobs that do not lead to a career path. And so it's industry that helps direct the needs and the technical training that's needed. So those are the partnerships that we require, and then we will fund those career tech programs that meet those objectives. The challenge for us, and I know Saline County is really looking at having one career tech center that all the schools would feed into, and I've been briefed on that. There's Northwest Arkansas, Benton County is looking at the same type of model, but this takes local financial support to accomplish that, as well as a state partnership. As we continue to develop that, we'll probably look for ways to put more money into that program, those programs in the future. But it is, to show you how important it is to me, career tech, part of it is the Department of Career Education, part of it is our Department of Education, and part of it is our economic development, and part of it is our higher education. All of those are involved in making career tech successful. Well, they're all 4 different agencies of state government. And so I created my career education board that all 4 agencies are there. I preside over that, where we meet and look at all the grants, we look at all the conflicts, how we can streamline it, and that has really helped pull everybody together. So it takes leadership from the top, support from the legislature, and you all make it happen in the different counties and in schools. So congratulations, thank you for your partnership. Thank you all for letting me be here with you.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I was sitting back here just acting for a second. If I was the governor, and I was listening to all the questions and the wisdom that he has on a lot of different issues is just incredible. And I'll tell you what, I'm proud to be from Arkansas, and I'm proud we have a leader like Governor Asa Hutchinson. I know it's getting close to 8, and I want you have time to come up here and talk to all the delegation up here. But really one group, I want to say the POA from Hot Springs Village and the CEO, Leslie, thank you so much, Leslie Nally. She's right here in the front. Why don't you stand up real quick? I hate to embarrass you, but what a great job she's doing. And the POA sponsored this breakfast this morning. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for showing up, because I'm going to tell you, Saline County, we need to all work together, and I think we're doing that. But thank you so much. And, you know, the next, let me tell you about the legislative breakfast. The rest of them will be at the hospital. Think about February and March, the 10th and the 24th of February, 10th and 24th of March. And so if you do want to sponsor one of the breakfasts, please let one of the chambers know, Benton or Bryan or Hot Springs Village, let us know about it. Representative Kim Hammer kind of set this whole deal up, and I'll tell you, Kim, thank you so much for doing that, and I appreciate you for organizing this and making it happen. So thank you for that. When I look at this team up here, it's amazing the things they have to know about. It's unbelievable, and the time they spend outside their family and having, you know, their businesses or being up at the Capitol to represent all of us. I tell you what, it's amazing work that they do. And I appreciate it. I know everybody in here does too. So let's give them one more thing. Saline Memorial Hospital did the food. Glad of that. And I tell you, a few years ago, this Benton Event Center started popping up. And just to let you know, and it's all public knowledge, but you know, the rental in this building, we're full all the time, and we thank God for that. And I'll tell you what, thank all of you for supporting this building and supporting our county. And if you need anything else from anybody up here, please come ask them. And with that, does anybody have a question or a comment they want to say before we leave? Okay, here's one.
Thank you.
Well, thank them. They're the ones that do it. And I'm going to tell you, please support Hot Springs Village Chamber, the Bryant Chamber. You know, we all have to support each other, and it's all about economic development, as the governor was saying. So let's support our businesses. Before you leave, shake some hands and do some networking. Get some friends. Make some friends in here. And that's the last thing I'm going to thank, I promise. But I want to say thank you to all of you for showing up this morning. All right, see you next time. Bye.